Oh, hello and welcome to Kids Corner. Sir Winston and I have been cleaning up the last of our Christmas stuff, which you might be able to see behind us. It's hard because the sun is shining, but it's a Jesse tree. And it tells the stories in the Old Testament, a little like a family tree about Jesus. And Sir Winston was asking me questions about some of them. And one of the ones he wanted to know about is why did we have a picture of a lion on the Jesse tree? And so I said to Sir Winston, we'll have a little break and we'll hear about the story of Daniel and these lions. Won't you join us? A long time ago, a man named Daniel lived in Babylon. He hadn't always lived in Babylon. When he was young, he lived in Israel, but Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had conquered the city, and Daniel was carried to Babylon. With some of the other young men brought to Babylon, he was trained to enter the king's service. Because God gave him the ability to interpret the king's dreams, he was rewarded by the king. He remained a very important official, even when there were new kings. Through all this time, Daniel continued to worship God, the God of his people, of Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, and Jacob, Rachel, and Leah. The Babylons worshiped different gods. This story takes place during the reign of King Darius. Daniel was very good at his job. He was so good that Darius planned to put him in charge of all the officials for the kingdom. This made the other officials jealous. These officials looked and looked to try to find something that Daniel did that was wrong, but they couldn't find anything. They realized that the only wrong thing about Daniel would have to do with his love of God. So they thought about it, and then went as a group to King Darius and said,
"O King Darius, live forever! We have all agreed that you should issue a law that anyone who prays to any god or man except you in the next 30 days shall be thrown into a den of lions. Put this in writing so it cannot be changed."
So the king did this. When Daniel learned it had been published, he went to his home, to his upstairs room where the window faced Jerusalem, and like he did 3 times a day, he got down on his knees and prayed. Then these men went and found Daniel praying and asking God for help, so they went and spoke to the king.
"Did you not publish a law that said that anyone who prays to a god or man except you should be thrown into the lion's den?" "Yes,"
said the king.
"Well, Daniel, one of the exiles, prays to his God 3 times a day."
The king was distressed and tried to save Daniel before sundown. But the group came back and said,
"Remember, O king, the law that was written in such a way it cannot be changed."
So the king gave the order, and they brought Daniel and threw him into the lion's den. The king said to Daniel,
"May your God to whom you serve rescue you."
Then a stone was rolled across it, and it was sealed with the king's signet ring and that of his nobles. The king returned to the castle. He did not eat. He did not sleep. At the first light of dawn, he got up and hurried to the lion's den, and he called out,
"Daniel, servant of the living God, has the God who you served rescued you from the lions?"
Daniel answered, "O king, live forever. My God sent an angel who shut the mouth of lions, and they have not hurt me because I was innocent." The king was overjoyed and gave orders to let Daniel out. There was no mark on Daniel. Then the king had the men who accused Daniel brought before him, and he had them and their families thrown to the lions. The king then wrote a decree that all the people in the kingdom must fear and revere the God of Daniel. Well, what did you think of that? Had you ever seen a lion before? I bet Daniel was quite scared going into the lion's den. Shall we have a little prayer together? If you could bow your head and repeat after me. Loving God, help us to be faithful and brave like Daniel. Thank you for the people who look after us. Help us to be kind to others and to your world. Amen. And we'll see you next time at Kids Corner. And maybe we'll see if there's other stories that Sir Winston doesn't know from the Jessie Tree.